So welcome to the Ellen Show.
Yes. Does that mean you're going to get up and dance?
No, I'm not dancing.
Okay.
You don't want that.
Okay.
So the first thing we need to do is for you to tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're working on.
My name is Minish-Wytinck. I'm based here in Winnipeg. I own a company called Smak Dab, and we have a line of premium mustards that we sell to grocery stores across Western Canada. And our whole purpose is we believe in the power of home cooking. So mustard is an extension of my chefy background and my extension to help people cook better, more fulfilling meals at home. So we have a line of seven delicious mustards that we primarily focus on using Canadian ingredients. So we use Canadian mustard seed, we use craft brewed beer, honey, and we make a really yummy variety of mustard that people can use in a variety of different ways in their kitchen. And we primarily focus on home cooks, the people that love to entertain, have people in their homes and that sort of thing. So that's a little bit about us.
Perfect, perfect. So I've always been curious, and I never asked you, I don't think. So where did Smak Dab come from?
So it's kind of funny. So I had the mustards first. The mustards came first. I developed those in my condo kitchen 8.5 years ago, and I was kind of perfecting the recipes more for fun. I was working in restaurants, and I just was like my little hobby. And I had the mustards first, and then I was kind of thinking of a name with them because I decided that I wanted to pursue it in some way. And my parents and I were bouncing ideas back and forth, and it was going to be like Carly's Mustard, which was just super boring. And you know, I can't even remember the names we had now, but they were just super flat. And Smak Dab has always been kind of a saying in our family, like, oh, put that Smak Dab in the middle of your plate, or, oh, Manitoba's Smak Dab in the middle of Canada. And one day I was actually sitting, I remember how it came to me. I was sitting outside my parents' place. It was very serene because they live in the country. And I was like, what am I going to call this mustard company? Because I really want to do this. And I was like, Smak Dab. Like, that works because it's kind of cheeky, it's fun, it's easy to remember, it's short. And it just stuck. And it's something I trademarked it, or I registered it right away. And I was like, this is ours. Whether I pursue this business or full-time, or if I just try it, I'm going to have a name. And that was the name we went with. So, and funny enough, smack in Eastern European countries like Poland and I believe Russia actually means taste, which is kind of cool. So I have a lot of people come up to me and say, did you mean to do that? And it's a happy accident that it kind of, bodes well for the brand.
So you say, yes, I did that on purpose.
I did mean that. Yeah, I should really say that. But yeah, no, it's kind of cool how it worked out. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So no $10,000 marketing company or anything like that. It was just Carly kind of thinking of stuff.
Exactly. Super organic. And it didn't come to me right away. I think it was like months of me pondering and writing ideas down, crossing them out. And it just kind of came organically. So I think I love the name. I think that it speaks so well to who we are, what we stand for. And most importantly, it's easy to remember. And I think that that's really important.
Right. Yeah. And a couple times when you were talking about that, you mentioned family.
Yeah.
And I know that Smak Dab is, it's you, but there's more behind the scenes to Smak Dab than just Carly, right?
Yeah. So when I started the business 8.5 years ago, it was just me, and my mom and dad were semi-retired, and they worked in a family business as well. They were entrepreneurs kind of in their past. So they were actually the ones that really not pushed me, but gently said, start a business. You're young. Why not just do it now? So they were always really big catalysts to starting Smak Dab, and I really give them a lot of credit because they were the ones that really nudged me and encouraged me, because I don't think everyone has that family support, and that is a huge part of it. Like, if you don't have your family support and if you're close with them, it's very hard to do something. So for me to have them nudging me and saying, just go for it, what do you have to lose, was huge. So to kind of get that permission. So yeah, they started with me right away. They helped me in the kitchen. My mom was with me early stages in the farmers markets, helping me and schlep and all those hard
credibility from your mom.
Exactly, yeah. And she was there, and I remember her saying to me the very first market, don't be upset if you don't sell a lot. Like, you're just getting going. Like, I don't want you to be disappointed. You're just getting here, and people are just learning who you are. I remember saying, yeah, Mom, that's really good advice. And sure enough, the first market was really amazing and lots of great support, and it kind of snowballed from there. But to answer your question, yeah. So my mom and dad were with me in the beginning. They helped me with production, and obviously with their previous business background, they were wonderful people to bounce ideas off of. And my mom being an amazing cook, she was that wonderful encouragement to really hone in on cooking at home, and which is a huge part of who we are today. In fact, it's really who we are. And so she was a huge part of that, and is. And so my parents to this day, my mom not so much anymore, she more is my childcare, she's my nanny, which is amazing. It's where she wants to be. My dad is very much the operations side. He manages the stock and what we make and ingredients coming in and out. He's the shipper, he's the receiver, he wears that hat, and he loves it. He loves being in the business again. So they're very much involved in one way or another, which is amazing because not everyone can say they work with your family and do it really can do it well, but we have a great relationship. We can be very honest with each other. We can speak very freely and respectfully, and it just works very well. So.
And I think, if I remember correct, I think your grandfather was like a star of social media, right?
That's right. So my grandfather, who's 92 now, he used to be, he doesn't, not anymore. He's unfortunately aged out of what he can do. But yeah, like when we were first starting, he was in the kitchen, he was filling jars, he was helping wash dishes, and he was just so proud. So it's just so, I get emotional talking about it. He was just so proud to be there. And it gave him so much purpose too. So he was with us for about 7 years, up until probably a year ago. He was in there filling jars with our, piston filler, and he was part of the team, and the rest of our staff really looked up to him and how they admired how he was just so proud, but just like had such purpose to help out. And yeah, he will always be our #1 employee and win employee of the month every month, even though he's not involved. He's there in spirit for sure. So yeah, he's amazing.
Well, I think it was wasn't it one of your most liked social media posts when he had the Sobeys product award or whatever?
Exactly. Yeah. He's made his appearance on a few. He was when we were on national TV on the news. I think it was 4 years ago now. The girl interviewed me, but she also interviewed him. It was supposed to be a very small piece, just out of Yorkton. Actually, they drove to Swan River to interview us. It was just supposed to be a local piece, and maybe Saskatchewan and Manitoba, and they pushed it nationally, which was crazy. So they interviewed me, and then they also interviewed him and us together, and they got some footage of us working together on the line, and people just loved it. And it was authentic. It was who we were. It's not like we were forcing anything. It was how our day-to-day was, so it was amazing. Yeah, it's a wonderful, memorable piece to have.
Yeah. For sure. So I'm going to take you back to the beginning a little bit. So you talked about the start at the market. So that's so just maybe tell us a little bit that you kind of developed these recipes at home. And then you started going into the markets.
Correct. Yeah. So I started the recipes in my kitchen at home. Christmas one year, I was still working in restaurants. I gave the mustards to my family. It was my sister-in-law's family too. I gave them to her.
So and then friends, family, and fans.
Exactly.
Kind of
it was like all my friends, because I was kind of broke at the time. I was working in restaurants. I was kind of just getting going out of culinary school. I wasn't making enough to buy everybody gifts, so I thought I'll make something from the heart, which again, very in tune to how my family expressed themselves was through food. So I made mustard for everybody. My husband's family also.
So everybody got mustard for Christmas.
Everybody got mustard. Yeah, and it was like I couldn't buy anything, but here's a jar of mustard. But everyone loved it, and I got responses weeks after from. I'll never forget my sister-in-law's family saying, "This is amazing." They got the honey horseradish, and they said, "This is amazing. Like, you need to sell this." And I thought, well, this is kind of cool to get that really good feedback. And I felt that people really meant it. And I said to them, well, do you have any feedback? And I remember somebody saying, oh, the beer was a little bitter, and maybe the honey horseradish could be a little horseradishier. So I was like, okay. So I went back into my kitchen, again, still working at the restaurants, and kind of kept tweaking the recipes until I felt like they were really good. And so it was the spring of that next year. I believe it was 2014. And I just felt like the restaurant industry was not for me. I gave it a good shot. I was pretty much at the end of my certification to get my red seal, and that was always my goal. I wanted to have that before I moved on, and I thought, you know what, this is just not for me. So I left. I wrote my red seal exam. I passed, and I thought, and my parents at the time were like, go to a farmer's market, just give it a go.
That's right.
And so in my little kitchen, I made enough for like 4 or 5 cases of mustard. My mom helped me bottle it by hand. We went to the farmer's market with our craft paper labels, and we just did it. And, to this day, I always say, if you're going to start a food business, the farmer's market is the best small target size to really get going, because you get really good feedback. You get that opportunity and that audience to really pitch in a really small and quick scale. So it's really good practice. And it really just helps you just establish who you are, tweak your recipes, find your customer clientele, practice your pitch, and really just grow your business. So yeah, we were at the farmer's market for probably, I want to say 4 or 5 years of our business. We just built our customer base very organically from people we met there. And there's a lot of people that we met in 2014 at our first few farmers markets who still buy our mustards today.
Really?
And they've seen they've seen our product evolve. I have a few people in mind that I've seen at shows, just a couple of years ago that I give hugs to, and we were like, you've been with us since the beginning, and they've seen us grow. And so I think that's really cool, and I think it's a testament to our brand and how we, want to take care of our customers and really speak to them. But the long and short of it is farmers markets are really how we got our start. And I highly recommend any business that's getting going, that wants to just generate some income, get that customer base going, to start there and really flourish, because you really can flourish. And even though farmers markets have really changed since COVID, even before then, there's so many now. So I feel like the market has been diversified and watered down a little bit because there's so many. But I feel like they're just still such a great way to start. And I think that anyone that schleps in the beginning and does that, it's such hard work, but it's totally worth it.
Well, and if you can go to the market and use it as a lab kind of thing,
Totally,
right? And kind of go, okay, what works? Try a few different flavors.
Absolutely.
Which one do they really resonate with, and all that.
Yeah, and it's a great way too when you start to get into stores. It's a great way to leverage that and say, hey, we're in stores now, because farmers markets in Manitoba are very seasonal. There isn't as many, there's a couple that are indoor, but they're not as flourishing as the summertime. So it's an opportunity to pass along a little card to people and say, hey, we're not here in the winter, but you can find us at these stores. And it's a great way to get that ball rolling to really growing your retail presence, which is ultimately the whole goal in my mind.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you remember when we met?
Okay, I often...
I do.
Is it 2015 or 16, or was it a year or so after, maybe?
Around 2015.
Was that what it was? So super green stage, probably still in the farmers markets, very maybe.
I think you were in co-op maybe then.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
I think it was on the shelf at co-op, because I remember going to the co-op and seeing it there.
And probably the paper labels, probably our first labels. And
no, you had the clear label at that time.
Okay, but still very beginning. Yeah.
So I remember, and I think it was a bit of we did like a pitch kind of thing. And do you remember what the first piece of advice I told you?
First piece of advice, I don't know, share your purpose?
Nope.
Benefits, like features and benefits?
Nope.
I don't know. It was a long time ago.
Slow down.
Slow down. Oh yeah, that's right. I talked very fast, and I still talk fast. But I feel like now it's a little bit more controlled. But yeah, that was definitely my...
Well, you were just so excited about what you were doing.
Very
you were
passionate.
just like wound tight about what you had going on, right?
It's true. Still probably my problem sometimes. But yeah, it's true. I think that the passion was just boiling over, and I had a hard time harnessing it. Yeah.
So one of the things, like for me, when you talk with people who have like a consumer packaged good, and you start at the markets. So do you remember going in the store the first time you saw it on the shelf, like in a retail kind of store?
Yeah, I remember, I think it was maybe DeLuca's that were our first store. And I think I remember going in and thinking, wow, this is really happening. And because the business was just supposed to be like a few months of just doing something fun over the summer. I actually was planning on going back to school. I wasn't really planning on doing the business for very long. And so going into stores, I remember thinking to myself, oh, this is really happening. This could really be something. And I remember knowing it could be something. And I remember seeing it on the shelf and thinking, okay, this is the start of something. And DeLuca's are still very close partners of ours. We've really grown together. And so it was really cool that they were kind of our first store. And I'll never forget going into pitch to John, the grocery guy, and he was such a busy guy. So I knew I had like 5 minutes of his time. So I remember just like going in there and probably talking super fast and just being like, no, this is what we do. And he's like, yeah, okay, I'll take a case of each. And it was one of those really quick, I often recommend people have product with them because it can be situations like that. But yeah, going in the store and seeing it on the shelf was a kind of a surreal moment of, wow, this is really happening. And this could really be something. And I remember being really motivated to be like, okay, I want to see more stores like this. I want this to be on every store, every grocery store in Winnipeg. And so it was a motivating moment. Yeah.
Yeah, when you see it there, it is like reality, right?
Yeah,
so.
It's like, this is really happening. This is an extension of you. So it's it gives you fire, and it also, kind of scared. Is that what you say? Scared. That's a good way to put it, because you're scared, but you're excited for what's to come. And again, I was so young. I was like 22 at the time, or 23. So I had nothing to lose still. So it was really cool. Yeah.
So when you got to the stage with DeLuca's, you were making it in Swan River at that point. Yeah. So how many cases at a time? Like were you doing like a 10,000 case production run or anything like that?
I'm pretty sure. So at that time, it was just myself, my mom, my dad, and my grandpa. And I'm pretty sure every day we'd make like 2 flavors. And if we could get like 40 cases done, we were like cheersing at the end of the day. Like it was huge to us. And now we make, 200 to 300 cases a day easy. So in that facility, maybe like more like 250. But anyways, yeah, like it was a very small scale, but it was what we were doing. We were everything by hand at the time. And so now we have a lot more of an automated process. But like we were excited. Like even though my mom and dad, like I said, they were semi-retired, they kind of just came on to help and be my production crew. They were excited too. You know, they've already lived their entrepreneurial past, but they were just really excited to see me, you know, be really excited and passionate about something. So yeah, it was about 40 cases a day. It was pretty small. Yeah.
So you'd bring that back down to Winnipeg.
Yep.
And so start with DeLuca's.
Yep.
And then what was the next step after that?
So it was just, we kind of chipped away at stores in the city. So we had a little storage unit in the city that we'd store our product. And so I would go there, I'd grab some samples. I had my appointments for the day. I had, you know, I remember having a couple appointments a day because I was still doing a lot of the deliveries myself to DeLuca's. So I remember going to visit La Grata. That was my big, I remember that one. That one to me was like, if I can get into La Grata, I'm going to be so proud of myself.
So it was like another stage.
It was another stage. And I've always admired that store because it had beautiful products. It was a higher end store and it had beautiful products. And I remember making an appointment with the guy. His name was John, I believe. He's not there anymore. I think he's retired. And I remember making an appointment with him. And again, very busy guy, wearing a lot of hats. So I had a very short window. And I bought him some samples and I really gave him this pitch and I practiced that day. And he was like, yeah, I'll take a case of each. And I remember being like, holy moly, this is happening. So that was a really cool moment. And then so it just snowballed from there. So the Sobeys Safeways definitely came later because we weren't at that scale yet. But I remember there was a store in the city called Generation Green. I popped into there. She no longer has her store. Her name was Sherry. So I remember going and pitching to her. And slowly it was just, you know, little stores I'd call and, you know, can I pop in and bring you some samples and tell you a little bit about us? There was one place on Academy called G&J Andrews, and I pitched to her and she didn't want it right away, and that was fine. And that was a store that never really gave me a yes for a long time. But that was okay. It actually happened when DeLuca's picked us up. She's like, okay, I can carry you guys now. But things like that happened. It was a lot of slow burns, you know, a lot of stores that wouldn't get back to me right away. And I think a lot of the times they want to see you as just not like a small player, but they want to see you, okay, this company's in a lot of stores. Let's maybe pick them up now. But it was just little by little, it just kind of grew, and then the DeLuca's came. Yeah.
So how did you kind of keep that positive attitude when you do go into some of these stores and it's like, well, you know, come back when you're bigger, but you can't get bigger if any of these stores don't take you. So how did you kind of keep your head in the game?
Yeah, I think at that point you take it pretty personally when people don't want to carry you. And you know what? I just thought, well, there's going to be other stores that care about us, that want to pick us up, and that's kind of what happened. So we would just focus on the ones that really could see what we were doing and the value we could give. So we really focus on those guys, and then eventually the stores that didn't, you know, necessarily see us yet were able to see us, which was cool.
So you focused on the ones where you got some shelf space and made it work. So what were you doing in those stores to get it selling? Like, there's more than just putting it on the shelf, right?
Yeah, so especially for DeLuca's, so they had just the one store at the time, but they do a ton of volume in there, especially around Christmas time. So I remember around the holidays, they were kind of our one store the first year. I remember doing demos in there, and that was a really great place to do demos. At the time, demos were more important. Social media was crazy to say, but social media was just really getting going in that year. I think it was 2014, 15, like Instagram, there was no TikTok then. So your business growing was really just on Facebook or interaction person to person, that word of mouth. So that was really important to me, is I wanted to touch as many, give as many samples as I could and talk to as many people that would hear me. So I was in DeLuca's doing demos over the holidays. I remember, I think we were in the co-ops maybe at that point. We were doing demos in the co-ops. Some of the smaller stores like Generation Green, we were doing demos there. Obviously, we were doing lots of shows, lots of farmers markets, like lots of Christmas shows. So we were just spreading the word to as many people as we could. And that was kind of really how we got our base of our clientele that would really grow with us later on. Yeah.
And so when you went in to pitch to these sort of, we'll say, independents,
yeah,
like what was the message? You know, it's like, we have this mustard, but you needed to give them a reason or two.
And at the time, I don't think my pitch was nearly as convincing as it is now. I think mine is a little bit more authentic, but it was more, I think that more than anything, they probably saw my passion. They probably saw me as this young kid that was just exuding just like passion for her product. She was a chef. She developed these delicious mustards using Canadian ingredients and also very local ingredients. So like beer from a brewery in Winnipeg and honey from Manitoba, and how they were unique and they were different than other mustards on the shelf, and that they could be used in different ways in the kitchen. And we give these cards to people so they could see. And I think my chef background gave me credibility as well. So that really helped too. But I think more than anything, they just saw that I was just this kid with just like this overabundance of like passion for this product. And I think that really spoke volumes, and I think it still does today, but obviously now I have a little bit more of a refined pitch. But yeah, I had this product that was just so delicious. And I think when they tasted it, they could see, oh, this is different, than the Dijons we have on the shelf. And we have very traditional brands, and this is a non-traditional upscale option. So that was kind of the pitch we were leading with. Yeah.
So translated into incremental sales, hopefully, and mustard to be used maybe differently than everybody's sort of, a hot dog or maybe a little bit of Dijon mustard in a salad dressing.
Exactly. And at that time, or the Instagramming and the social media of food bloggers wasn't as prevalent as it is now. So I feel like people were kind of on the cusp of seeing what food was possible with food. And now that everyone follows all these food bloggers, like, wow, you can make all this stuff on your smoker and stuff. But we were really trying to push that and really get people excited about what they could cook at home. And so that was kind of how we led those conversations.
And when you talk, and I know we talked about sort of the cook at home, so I'm going to go back to kind of, you're now at the stage where it's starting to grow, but did the why for you, like, first, what is the why? Why are you doing this? And then has that changed over time?
You know what? It's funny because my why, I think, was always there. I just couldn't verbalize it. I think in the beginning, my why was, oh, it's a delicious product people could use in many ways. But it was like, but why? Why are you making this? And I don't think that the funny thing about your why is I think I was telling you this before, it's in the part of your brain that's with gut feelings and that's with emotions. And it's hard to verbalize that because it's not part of the verbal part of your brain that computes things and says it. That's the what. So I could tell people what I was making. I was making a delicious product with, focuses on Canadian ingredients that people could use in many different ways for home cooks, but I couldn't really tell people why. And for a long time, I was like, why? I know why I'm doing this as a chef, but it's so hard to verbalize it. And it wasn't until actually this past year when I was working with somebody, she was helping me craft our mission statement, and she was like, well, why do you do it? And I was like, it's like on the tip of my tongue, but it's hard to say. And so that's why when I ask people, it's hard for people to really say it. But then I realized the pit was, like, the real deep meaning was, I believe in the power of home cooking. And when I say it, it's like, yeah, that's why I make a mustard, because people can use it in a variety of ways, because cooking is so powerful. And everyone feels that, when they gather around the table with people they love, or when they have friends over and they make a charcuterie board for them, it's that food that brings you together. And it's like that catalyst to build memories and emotions and share and cry and laugh. It's, it's like the center of it. And we see how people across the world use food as that thing to bring people together. So it's my way of an extension of how I feel. Right. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, no. And so probably the why hasn't changed.
Yeah.
It's just you've been able to kind of work on it and figure out how to bring it out.
Exactly. It's been around for 8.5 years. I just haven't been able to verbalize how I feel. It's been like, I can feel it, but I can't say it. And yeah, I just found it a way to put it into words. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And I think that people feel it too when they talk to me and they see our brand on Instagram, and they don't really know what it is either. But then now they're like, oh yeah, because I believe in the power of home cooking too. That's why I like Smak Dab. So I think that it's like a realization for everyone is this is who we are. So we just try, and when we make any decisions with marketing or any new stores or any opportunities, we filter it through our why and our purpose, because there's a lot of times we have opportunities that don't align with us and who we are, and we have to say no to them. We say no to probably 90 to 95% of the opportunities that come our way because they just don't make sense to us. Like us selling and or exporting overseas doesn't always make sense to us because it's just doesn't align with who we are. Or, that's just an example of opportunities. It has to really make sense to who you are and what you want your company to be known for. Yeah.
Interesting. So at the beginning, like the first 2 or 3 years, what were some of the big hurdles? What were some of the big challenges you had to kind of overcome?
I think just the hurdles are so different than what they are now. Now we're dealing with, problems on a larger scale. Like, COVID just the past few years has really presented a lot of issues. But when you're just first getting going, I think you're wearing a lot of hats. You're still doing the manufacturing, you're growing the business, you're doing the accounting, you're doing the social media, and there's a big burnout with that. So I would say in the beginning it was, you hate to talk about the hustle and how you don't want to condone it to anyone, but you do it. And you look back and say, well, you kind of had to go through it to get to where you are, but I hate recommending it because you don't want to see other people get burnt out. I'm not saying I was burnt out, but you're just wearing a lot of hats. So that was a huge hurdle. You're just trying to balance a lot because you're trying to just make money and you're just trying to get this company rolling. So for me, I think it was trying to decide what hat I needed to take off and hand off to somebody else. So from the beginning, I knew that in the food space that was very crowded, and in the mustard category that's very, you know, huge players and very traditional, I knew that we had to set ourselves apart. So I knew the marketing hat was something I needed to hand off. So even though I still did a lot of the social media myself, in terms of like design and website, I knew I needed to hand that off to somebody, a company or an agency that knew it and knew how to translate what we were saying. And we worked with the company for a long time. And so that was a big one. And then everything else I kind of managed for a while. And then eventually it was the manufacturing. We brought on more people to help us with that. And so I wasn't always able to be in the manufacturing, but I had a full team that was very, you know, trained and up to speed. So slowly it kind of evolved. And then now we actually outsource most of our manufacturing, which is a huge hat that I've handed off, which has been huge. And so I think you just make decisions based on your personality type, what's best for you, because the decisions I've made in my business, I'm sure the next company would have made different ones, but that's just based on them and their personality type and what, you know, the part of their life. So I think in the beginning, you know, manufacturing was huge. I knew that we needed to set ourselves apart, so marketing. And then, I think just taking care of yourself, because ultimately you're the best advocate for your business. And when you're not your best self, your business isn't healthy. So I tried to focus on myself and keeping myself active and healthy so that I could represent the business the best I could. But it's hard. In the beginning, it's really challenging to get going. And that's why I like to help other businesses that are just getting going, because I see the struggle and the overwhelmingness getting into stores. Like when I first met you, it's very overwhelming and it's scary because you feel like you're a very small fish in a huge ocean. And you really are, but there's a way to still be, you know, have a place. And it's overwhelming. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And one of the things you mentioned was just that sort of perception where the stores they want to sort of associate themselves with a winner or with something that's being successful, and you don't get a chance to prove that until you're in a bunch of stores.
Yeah.
So how did you sort of seem bigger than maybe you really were?
I don't know. I think that's a good question. I think that it helped that we had really good word of mouth around Smak Dab. We had a lot of people organically spreading the word of Smak Dab that, you know, was delicious local product. And, you know, I saw people on social media putting it on, you know, their hamburger, but then also in a salad dressing. So I think that the word really spread organically that way. So I think it made us seem very impactful, even though we were still super small and we were like a very, very lean team. So I think that helped, that we had that wonderful organic growth that way. So then, you know, and then that's when, you know, we had Sobeys reach out to us and say, hey, we're hearing such great things about your mustards. Like, let's have a conversation. So that's how those things happened, where I thought to myself, man, like we're so small to be in Sobeys, but obviously we have clout. You know, obviously we're doing something because we have these followers that love us and love our brand and love what we do. And that's just kind of how it got going. So I think that it helps that you just build that brand first, that people want to be around. They want to associate with you. They want to talk about you because they like you and they, you know, they like what you're doing and that you're, you know, you're giving back, and that really helps. So I think it's also your image. I think that it's all about who you are, how you present yourself to people. People want to be around you. They want to recommend you. That really helps too. So I think that when you're small, all those things kind of built up into us having a very positive image that allowed us to seem bigger than we were, I guess. Yeah.
So we were talking about Sobeys wanting you.
Yeah.
Which doesn't always happen, right? I think that for people that should have been, I think, for you, an aha moment, right? So was it for you? Was it kind of like, okay, wow, this is like another stage kind of thing?
Yeah, it was cool. I remember I was at home and I had a call from Sobeys. It was Matthew. I believe it was Matthew locally calling, and what kind of happened was DeLuca's. Actually, we got a call from somebody at one of the local stores that wanted to list us. So we were already delivering DSD to a couple.
So you were like going behind the.
I was, and I didn't know that was a no-no. And then I got a call from somebody being like, "We're gonna need to rein this in." And then I believe it was, I think it was the time we were just about to start working with DeLuca. So I was like, okay, well, we're moving in that direction.
And DeLuca's being the distributor.
Exactly. Sorry. Yeah. The distributor. So it was kind of a no-no to go behind go the back door. I'm like, okay, well, this is okay, but let's do this the proper way. So that kind of got the ball rolling. But yeah, when Sobeys first called us, it was like they were always on my wish list, but I was thinking like way down the road. And so when I got that call or that email from them, it was really exciting. And so I believe it was Gary I talked to on the phone with, and he kind of ran me by the whole processes, and, you know, and then it was kind of something that snowballed from there. So DeLuca's, we worked together about how to roll that out. And I work really closely with the rep at the time, and we talked about how to, how to go forward with this. And so, because even though DeLucas were the ones that were really going forward with it, they wanted to be the ones to go to the store, represent us. I was, I made sure I was still very involved and supported the stores and was able to still help with that process. So it was cool. It was kind of cool how it slowly rolled out. Like, it was store by store. The store picked us up, and then eventually it was all the stores, which was really cool. And then that was a cool moment to walk into a Sobeys, be grocery shopping with my husband, and be like, "There's Smak Dab. Like, there's us. That's us." And that was really cool. That was a moment that you look and you're like, huh, yeah, like, you're doing it, But again, like, you're in it, but it's also like when you're in those stores, it becomes like, hey, you have to work hard now. Like, you're working hard before, but then you have to get off the shelf. You have to get into people's shopping carts. You want to get on people's grocery lists when they go to the grocery store. You need to pick up a jar of Smak Dab. So that was the next step, and it was like a whole nother layer of strategy, and that was really big.